I didn't find out about the cruise the way you'd expect. There wasn't a lipstick stain, no suspicious late-night texts lighting up his phone, no dramatic moment where I caught him in the act. It was quieter than that, colder. Like something had already been dead for a long time, and I just hadn't noticed the smell yet. It started with an email. We share a laptop, not out of some romantic we tell each other everything kind of thing, but because it's just easier. Bills, streaming, random Amazon orders, it all goes through that one machine sitting on the kitchen counter. That morning, I was drinking my coffee, still half asleep, scrolling through my inbox, when I saw a confirmation for a luxury cruise. At first, I thought it was spam. 7 nights, Caribbean, balcony suite, champagne package. The name on the reservation wasn't mine. It was his. And underneath it, another name. A woman's name I didn't recognize. I remember staring at the screen for a long time, like if I blinked enough times it would rearrange itself into something less devastating. My first instinct wasn't even anger, it was confusion. My brain kept trying to solve it like a puzzle. Maybe it was a surprise trip. Maybe the other name was a travel agent. But I already knew. There's this moment when your body understands something before your mind catches up. My chest tightened, my stomach dropped, and suddenly everything about the past few months started rearranging itself into a new, uglier picture. The late nights at work, the sudden interest in going to the gym, the way he'd started putting his phone face down on the table, the emotional distance I'd been trying to explain away as stress, it all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. I didn't confront him right away. That's the part people always question when I tell this story. They ask why I didn't just wait for him to come home and throw the laptop in his face, why I didn't scream, cry, demand answers. But the truth is, I needed to be sure. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I needed to understand how deep it went. I needed to know if this was a one-time thing or if my entire marriage had been quietly rotting from the inside. So I started digging. I clicked into the cruise confirmation email. It had more details, dates, departure port, even a note about a special dinner reservation for 2. Romantic. Of course it was. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked his messages. His phone wasn't there, but his laptop was synced. iMessages, emails, everything. It didn't take long to find her. Her name popped up over and over again in a thread that went back months. At first, it was work-related. They apparently met through some client project. The tone was professional, distant. And then, slowly, it changed. Jokes that lasted too long, late-night conversations that had nothing to do with work, inside references I didn't understand. Then came the compliments. Then the flirting. Then everything else. I sat there for hours, scrolling through the evolution of their relationship like I was watching a slow-motion car crash. Except I was the one trapped inside the car, and I didn't even know it until it was too late. He told her things he hadn't said to me in years, that she made him feel alive, that he couldn't stop thinking about her, that being with her felt easy in a way our marriage didn't anymore. I remember that line specifically because it hit harder than anything else. Not the I love yous he eventually sent her, not the explicit messages, not even the plans for the cruise. It was that word, easy. Like I had somehow become the hard part of his life, like loving me had turned into some kind of burden he needed a vacation from. By the time I got to the messages about the cruise, my hands were shaking so badly I had to set the laptop down. He told her it was their escape, that they deserved this, that he had everything handled at home. Everything handled. I almost laughed when I read that, because at that exact moment, I was sitting in our kitchen, surrounded by the life we built together, realizing I had no idea who my husband really was. But the part that truly broke something inside me wasn't even him. It was her. I clicked on her contact info, half expecting nothing, maybe just a number or a vague email address. But she wasn't hiding. Her full name was right there. And with that, it took me less than 5 minutes to find her online. She had a social media profile. Public. Of course she did. She was smiling in every photo, bright, effortless, the kind of woman people describe as glowing. She looked normal. Not some villain, not some cliché, just a woman living her life. But then I saw something that made my stomach twist in a completely different way. She wasn't single. There were pictures of her with a man. A lot of them. Vacations, holidays, family gatherings. He had his arm around her in almost every shot, looking completely unaware of what was happening behind his back. Her fiancé. I stared at that word in her bio for a long time. Fiancé. Meaning she wasn't just casually involved with my husband, she was planning a future with someone else while secretly building something with him. And suddenly, this wasn't just about me anymore. I don't know exactly when the idea formed in my head. It wasn't a single moment. It was more like a slow shift, a quiet realization that just settled in. I wasn't going to confront my husband. Not yet. And I definitely wasn't going to let him go on that cruise like nothing had happened. Because if he thought everything was handled at home, then maybe it was time I showed him just how wrong he was. I spent the rest of that day gathering information. Flight details, cruise itinerary, departure time, everything I could find. And then I went back to her profile. I clicked on her fiancé's account. He looked like a good guy. That's the stupid part. He didn't look like someone who deserved this. None of us did, I guess, but there was something about the way he posted about her. The captions, the photos. He loved her. You could see it in the way he looked at her. It made me feel sick. For a second, I hesitated, because reaching out to him would make this real in a way I couldn't take back. It would blow everything up. Not just my marriage, but their engagement too. 4 lives, all unraveling at once. But then I thought about the cruise, about them sipping champagne on a balcony, laughing, touching, pretending the rest of us didn't exist. And something inside me hardened. He deserved to know, just like I did. I didn't send the message right away. I typed it out, deleted it, rewrote it, stared at it until the words stopped looking real. I kept it simple, direct. I told him who I was, I told him about my husband, and then I attached screenshots, a lot of them, enough that there would be no doubt. My finger hovered over the send button for what felt like forever, because once I did it, there was no going back, no pretending, no fixing things quietly behind closed doors. This would turn into something bigger than all of us. But then I remembered that email, the one where my husband said he had everything handled, and I pressed send. The response didn't come right away, which was somehow worse. I spent the next few hours pacing around the house, jumping every time my phone buzzed, my mind running through every possible reaction. Anger, denial, silence.
But when he finally replied, it wasn't any of those. It was one line. Can we talk? And just like that, everything changed. Because I realized I wasn't alone in this anymore, and neither was he. We didn't talk on the phone. That was the first thing he said when I responded. No calls. Not yet. I need to process this. I understood that. I didn't want to hear his voice either. There's something about hearing another person breathe when your world is collapsing that makes everything feel too real, too fast. Texting gave us distance. It gave us time to think before we reacted. And right then, we both needed that. His name was Ryan. He told me that about 10 minutes into the conversation, like it mattered, like we weren't already connected in the worst possible way. I told him mine, and then there was this weird pause in the thread where neither of us knew what to say next. What do you even say to the person who just found out they've been betrayed at the exact same time as you? Are you sure? He finally asked. That question didn't make me angry like I expected it to. It just made me tired. So I sent more screenshots. The kind you can't explain away. The kind that leave no room for interpretation. Messages about hotel rooms, inside jokes about things they'd done together, explicit confirmations of plans. There was even one where my husband had sent her a screenshot of the cruise booking with a caption, "Just us, no interruptions." Ryan didn't respond for a long time after that. I imagined him staring at his phone the same way I had stared at that laptop earlier that morning. The disbelief, the slow unraveling, the moment when denial stops being an option. When he finally texted back, it was different. Shorter. Sharper. How long has this been going on? I told him the truth, or at least as much of it as I could piece together from the messages. About 5 months, maybe longer, depending on when the emotional stuff started. There was another pause. Then, we got engaged 6 months ago. I stared at that message, feeling something heavy settle in my chest. The timeline overlapped almost perfectly. While he was planning a future with her,
She was already building something behind his back with my husband. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. He filled the silence himself. I had no idea. Neither did I. That was the part that bonded us instantly. Not just the betrayal, but the complete blindness of it. We had both been living in what we thought were stable, committed relationships, completely unaware that the people we trusted most were lying to our faces every single day. It made everything feel fake. Every memory, every I love you, every quiet night at home. All of it felt like it had been built on something hollow. "What are you going to do?" he asked. That question sat there for a while, because I didn't have a simple answer. Part of me wanted to confront my husband immediately, to explode, to force everything into the open, to make him feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. But another part of me, the quieter, colder part, wanted something else. "I don't want them to go on that cruise," I finally typed. He responded almost instantly. "Neither do I." And just like that, we were on the same page. There was no discussion about whether we should expose them, no moral debate about how to handle it. We had both already crossed that line the moment I sent that first message. This wasn't about saving our relationships anymore. This was about truth. And maybe, if I'm being completely honest, it was also about something darker. Control. They thought they had control over this situation. They thought they could plan their little escape, disappear for a week, and come back like nothing happened. They thought we'd just be here, waiting, oblivious. That idea made something inside me burn. "We could confront them before they leave," Ryan suggested. I stared at the message, thinking about it. That would be the logical thing to do. Clean, direct, immediate. But it didn't feel right. Too easy. "They'll just deny it," I wrote back. "Or worse, they'll admit it and still go." He didn't argue with that, because we both knew it was true. People who are willing to carry on something like this for months don't suddenly grow a conscience when they get caught. They find ways to justify it, to minimize it, to twist it into something that doesn't make them the villain. I didn't want that. I didn't want excuses. I didn't want apologies. I wanted them to feel exposed. Completely, undeniably exposed. "What are you thinking?" he asked. I hesitated before answering, because saying it out loud would make it real. But once the thought had fully formed, I couldn't shake it. "They're leaving from Miami," I typed slowly. 3 days from now." There was a pause on his end. And then, "Yeah, I think we should be there." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost feel him processing it, weighing the idea, imagining the moment. "You mean, at the port?" "Yes." I could feel my heart beating harder as I continued typing. "Before they board, before they can disappear, we show up, together." The words looked surreal on the screen, like something out of a movie. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. There would be no hiding, no private conversations where they could spin the narrative or manipulate the situation. It would be immediate, public, undeniable. They wouldn't be able to control the story. For the first time since all of this started, I felt a small sense of clarity. Ryan didn't respond right away. I waited, watching the typing bubble appear, disappear, appear again. Finally, he sent, "That's insane." I almost smiled at that, because it was. Completely insane. But it was also the only thing that felt right. "I know," I replied. "But tell me it's not exactly what they deserve." There was a long silence after that, and in that silence I realized something about him. He wasn't impulsive. He was the kind of person who thought things through, who tried to do the right thing, who probably never imagined himself in a situation like this, which meant that if he agreed, he really meant it. When his next message came through, it was simple. "I'm in." I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. And just like that, the plan started to take shape. We spent the next few hours going over details. Flight times, hotels, logistics. It was surreal, coordinating something like this with a complete stranger who, just hours ago, I didn't even know existed. And yet, there was an understanding between us that felt almost familiar. Like we were the only two people in the world who fully understood what the other was going through. At one point, he asked me something that caught me off guard. "Why didn't you tell your husband you know?" I stared at that question for a long time, because the answer wasn't simple. "I think part of me wants to see how far he'd go," I finally admitted. "If I said nothing, if I just let it happen." That was the truth. As painful as it was, there was something about watching his behavior now, knowing what I knew, that felt revealing. Every normal interaction felt loaded. Every casual, "I'll be home late," felt like a lie wrapped in something familiar. I wanted to see it all, without interruption. Ryan didn't judge me for that. He just said, "I get it." And I believed him. We finalized everything by the end of the night. Flights booked,
hotel near the port, a time and place to meet in person for the first time. As I closed the laptop and sat alone in the quiet of the house, the weight of what I was about to do finally settled in. 3 days. In 3 days, everything would come crashing down. Not just for them, for all of us. I walked into the bedroom and saw my husband sleeping, completely unaware of what was coming. For a moment, I just stood there, looking at him. This man I had built a life with. This man who was planning to leave me for a week to be with someone else. He shifted slightly in his sleep, murmuring something I couldn't understand, and I felt nothing. No tears, no anger, just a strange, hollow calm. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was waiting. And this time, I was the one in control. The next 3 days felt like living inside a lie I was fully aware of. That was the strangest part. Nothing about our routine changed on the surface. We still woke up at the same time, still moved around each other in the kitchen, still talked about completely normal things like groceries, work deadlines, and whether we should finally replace the couch we've been complaining about for months. And the entire time, I knew he was counting down the hours until he could leave me and get on that ship with her. I started noticing everything. The way he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. The way he suddenly cared about what he wore, laying out outfits like he was going somewhere special instead of a last-minute work conference, which was the excuse he gave me the night after I found out. That conversation still played in my head. We were sitting on the couch, TV on but neither of us really watching, when he casually dropped it. "Hey, I've got to head to Miami for a few days this week. Work thing. Kinda last minute." I remember turning to look at him, studying his face, searching for even a hint of guilt. There wasn't any. He looked completely relaxed. Normal. Like he'd said something as harmless as picking up dry cleaning. "Miami?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Yeah, just a conference. Networking stuff. Nothing exciting." Nothing exciting. That almost made me laugh. Instead, I nodded slowly, pretending to process it like a normal wife would. "When do you leave?" "Friday morning. Early." Friday. The same day as the cruise departure. "Okay," I said. "How long?" "About a week." 7 days. Of course. Everything lined up perfectly. And the entire time, he sat there like he wasn't dismantling our marriage piece by piece with every word. I remember forcing a small smile. "Well, try to enjoy it at least a little." He smiled back. "I will." That was the moment something in me fully detached. Not cracked, not bent. Detached. Because I realized he wasn't just lying, he was comfortable lying. Confident in it. Like he'd already decided I wasn't someone he needed to be honest with anymore. And that changed the way I saw him. By the time Thursday night rolled around, I felt like I was watching a stranger move through my house. He packed his suitcase in our bedroom while I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling on my phone, pretending not to notice the care he was putting into it. Nice shirts, dress shoes, a cologne he hadn't worn in months. I knew exactly who all of that was for. "Do you think I should bring the navy jacket or the gray one?" he asked casually, holding them both up. That question almost broke me. Not because of what it meant, but because of how normal it sounded. Like we were still us. Like I was still his partner. "The navy one," I said without looking up. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Of course you were. Everything about him suddenly felt rehearsed. Later that night, he set an alarm for 5 a.m. "I'll probably just Uber to the airport," he said. "No need for you to wake up that early." I nodded. Yeah, that makes sense. We went to bed like any other night. He fell asleep quickly. I didn't sleep at all. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. Not sadness exactly, not even anger. Just this overwhelming sense that the life I thought I had was already gone. And in a few hours, I was going to step into something completely different. When his alarm went off, I kept my eyes closed. I heard him get up, move quietly around the room, grab his suitcase. He paused for a second before leaving. Then I felt it. A light kiss on my forehead. "Love you," he whispered. I didn't respond. I couldn't. A few seconds later, I heard the front door close. And just like that, he was gone. I waited about 10 minutes before I got up. Then I moved. Fast. I threw on clothes, grabbed my already packed bag, and headed out the door.
My flight was a couple hours after his, and for the first time since all of this started, my heart was racing in a way that felt almost electric. Not fear. Something sharper. Purpose. The airport felt surreal. Families rushing to gates, people complaining about delays, coffee shops packed with half-awake travelers. It was all so normal, and I was just another person moving through it, carrying something no one else could see. I texted Ryan when I got through security. Boarding in 30. His reply came almost instantly. Same. See you in Miami. That was it. No overthinking, no second-guessing. Just two people moving toward the same collision point. The flight itself felt like it lasted 5 minutes and 5 hours at the same time. I tried to distract myself with a movie, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying everything, the messages, the lies, the plan, and then, inevitably, what was coming next. Meeting Ryan. I had seen his pictures, obviously, but that wasn't the same as standing in front of someone who had just had their life flipped upside down in the exact same way as me. I didn't know what that moment would feel like. I landed in Miami just after noon. The heat hit me the second I stepped outside. Thick, heavy, almost suffocating. It felt appropriate somehow, like the air itself was pressing in on everything. We agreed to meet at the hotel first, neutral ground, a place where we could actually talk before everything went down. I got there about 20 minutes before him. The lobby was bright, modern, filled with people in vacation mode. Laughter, drinks, the sound of rolling suitcases. Everyone looked excited to be there. I sat down on one of the couches near the entrance, trying to keep my hands from shaking. And then I saw him. I knew it was him immediately. He looked exactly like his pictures, but different at the same time. More worn, like something had been taken out of him in the last 48 hours. He spotted me at the same time. There was this brief moment where we just stood there, looking at each other, both fully aware of what connected us. Then he walked over. "Hey," he said. "Hey." And that was it. No hug, no awkward introduction. Just two people standing face to face in the middle of a hotel lobby, bonded by betrayal. Up close, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. "You okay?" he asked. It was such a simple question, but it caught me off guard. I thought about it for a second. "No," I said honestly. "You?" He let out a quiet breath. "No." We both nodded, like that was enough. Because it was. We didn't need to pretend.
We grabbed a table in the corner of the lobby bar. For the next hour, we talked. Really talked. Not just about them, but about everything leading up to this. The little things we missed, the moments that felt off but we ignored. The slow shift from normal to something else we couldn't quite name at the time. It was strange how similar our experiences were. Different details, same pattern. Same kind of lies, same kind of distance. At one point, he pulled out his phone and showed me a picture of them together, her and him, smiling, happy. I recognized the dress she was wearing. I had seen it in one of the pictures she sent my husband. That realization hit hard. "They're probably already here," he said quietly. I nodded. The cruise wasn't until the next morning, but most people flew in early, which meant they're together right now, I said. He didn't respond to that. He didn't need to. We both knew exactly what that meant. A heavy silence settled between us. Then he looked at me. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow," I repeated. That word carried everything. The confrontation, the truth, the moment their carefully planned escape would fall apart. And for the first time since I got there, I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger, not just hurt, something steadier. Like I had finally reached the point where there was no more uncertainty, only action. Ryan leaned back slightly, studying me. "Are you ready for this?" I didn't answer right away, because ready wasn't the right word. But I met his eyes anyway. "They're not." And that was enough.